very practical today, very practical, very useful. Not that they all are, but very practical and useful podcast for you today. And I really want you to hone in on this. It's going to really help you. 5 steps to greater daily productivity. If it's one thing we can all use more of, it is a more enhanced and more focused daily productivity practice. And that's what we're going to refer to it as. So traditionally, productivity has been known about, as efficiency, let's say, but, how much you're able to get done in the shortest amount of time. But today it's a little different. We know that true productivity is about focusing on what truly matters. So it's not so much about how much you're getting done, because there is a lot to say about fake work these days. There's a lot to say about imposter syndrome these days. There's a lot of people doing things that don't really add to their bottom line, that don't really provide them any progress towards their future goals, right? So what we want to talk about today are 5 ways that we can improve our level of productivity on an everyday basis, but this is going to be directly related to our achievements and the goals that we want to achieve, and this is going to be very, very intentional. So I want you to listen very carefully as we go through these 5 ways. So in the past, people have thrived in productivity. They knew how to prioritize tasks. So this is not a revolution in thinking, right? Prioritizing tasks. The shift in thinking, though, comes from not so much doing more, but doing what matters. Not doing more, but doing what matters. What moves you closer to your goal? That's what we're talking about. So welcome in today to Rethink. If this is your first time, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. If you listen to us on the podcast side, that's great. Subscribe to us there. iHeartRadio and Google and Apple Podcasts, all these great platforms. Thank you so much. As well, if you're looking and listening to us on the YouTube side, please make sure that you subscribe to us there as well. We'd appreciate comments. Let us know how we're doing. And if you have any questions, let us know what those are as well. If you have any ideas, for example, on future podcasts, we're open to that as well. If you listen to us on the podcast side, it's very simple. Look down in the show notes. You guys can actually send us a text message. You can communicate with us very seamlessly through the same device that you are listening to us on right now. Shoot us a text message. Let us know how you like this episode. Let us know if there are any future episodes that you'd like for us to do any research on your behalf. And of course, on YouTube, guys, jump right down in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking. We'd be very happy to respond to you. How to be more productive every day. I'm going to give you 5 steps, 5 prudent, actual daily steps that you can employ into your current modus operandi, and with the hopes of becoming more productive, seeing greater and more successful results. So here's the opportunity. Why does this really matter? Why does this topic really matter? Why is it important to high achieving people like yourself? Productivity has become a common struggle for a lot of people. We often are overwhelmed with, endless to-do lists. It's something always in the inbox. Endless distractions, cell phone, email, news, TV, social media. And then that all results into a lack of focus. So there seemingly is always something that's keeping us from moving forward or obtaining our goal. But there's a real opportunity here to just simplify and, again, be intentional with our time. We have to be intentional with our time. That means we've got to plan in order to achieve more and be less stressed, quite honestly, because there's so many things that are demanding and asking for our focus and for our time and for our energy. We just have to be intentional on what we give our energy and focus to. So achieve your goals with less stress. How do we do that? We've got to be more productive in a mindful and an intentional way. Here's an example. So instead of being overwhelmed with a very long to-do list, I've been guilty of this in the past, of creating these very long, extensive to-do lists. Focus on a few impactful tasks. I am old enough and I've been working long enough to realize that in a day's time, if you are able to get a few but intentional and impactful tasks done, that is a success for the day. I don't care if you've got 20 things on your list. There are probably three things that if you get those done will equate to more of the 17 that are left on that list if you prioritize it. So what's the solution? What are these 5 steps? Number 1, we've got to set daily intentions. The night before, I can't stress this enough. While it's calm and while your mind is not quite in a theta or a sleep state, but while you are calm and while you can think clearly, it's very important for you to begin to organize the next day. I always keep a notebook and a pen next to my bed, and the purpose is dual. One is for journaling, but 2 is if an idea comes to me or a thing that I need to focus on, I have a place and an instrument to write it down with. What I'm suggesting you do, even if you bring your laptop upstairs or to your bedroom, take the time to outline how your day should start. Take the time to outline the things that you want to get accomplished the next day. That does 2 things for you. Number 1, there's no decision fatigue involved. You're making decisions today that'll put you ahead for tomorrow. Number 2, you're very clear on what you're thinking because right now, nobody's calling you, there's no emails to be checked, and nobody's requesting or demanding your attention. So when you wake up in the morning, this is already in place. You know very well what you need to do. You can strike out and hit the ground running. So again, set daily intentions. Start each day by setting these clear intentions, and I'm suggesting that you actually do it the night before. These are areas where you can focus on what's most important for the growth of your achievement, for the growth of your particular idea. Whatever it is you're trying to do, let's start let's head out for the most important things that can impact our growth. Secondly, let's create a no list. And I'm going to get really in detail on this no list. Let's create a no list. What is that? Write down things that you need to say no to. God knows we all need this. Whether it's distractions or unimportant tasks, this list helps you to stay focused on what truly matters. Let me give you an example. A lot of times I would feel satisfied or at least productive throughout the day if I got a lot of things around the house done because I work from home and many times or throughout my career, I've had to divvy up my time between, because I work at home, things that matter around the house and then actual work. So if I needed to run errands, that was part of my day. If I need to do actual work, from emails to meetings, Zoom meetings, and maybe even travel, that's also part of my work. Well, picking up trash bags, making sure the dogs are fed and walked, and ensuring that tires are rotated on the car, that's on my list. But is that moving me toward my financial goals, my entrepreneurial goals, the goals that I have with this podcast, things that are most important to me? No. But they were things that needed to be done. And yes, there were things on my list. These are things that can be put on a no list. Why? Because these are things that are practical, but not necessary as it relates to me moving towards my goals. But I would spend time doing them. I would spend my time doing these things. And I know I'm not the only one. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to create a no list and things that should go on a no list. And just so you can understand me clearly, I know I have a strong Southern drawl. When I say a no list, I mean a N as in Nancy and O, N-O list. Number 3, time your task. Now, we've talked about this before with the Pomodoro method. One of the things that's important to do is not to spend a whole lot of time on every task. You don't want every task to take you an hour. You want the tasks that take an hour to take an hour, but the tasks that should take you only 10 minutes should not take you an hour. So use a timer and limit your time on each task. You should know how long it takes you to reach out to a counterpart to get a certain, bit of information. You should know how long your meetings are scheduled for. You should know how long, your lunch meetings are scheduled for, et cetera, et cetera. It's important if you're going to be productive throughout your day to understand where your time is being allocated. So you don't feel overwhelmed. So you don't feel like you are spending more time on a task than you shouldn't, unproductive. You've got to write down and allocate as best you can time allotments, and stick to it for these particular tasks. Number 4, a midday check-in. Have you ever done that? What is it? Take a break in the middle of the day. Evaluate your morning and plan your afternoon. Right before you go to lunch, if you eat lunch at noon, take a look at the morning from 8 until noon. How did you do? How much did you get done? What's still on your plate? Plan for the afternoon from 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 or however long you work, and determine what you need to make adjustments for. A midday check-in. Check in with yourself. Adjust your priorities if necessary. If that number one thing didn't get done from 8 to 12, then it's got to be number one from 1 to 4. It's got to be number one from 1 to 4 because you don't want to close the business today without getting that number one priority done. It's going to set you back for tomorrow. Number 5, end of day planning, which is kind of where we started at. End of day planning is before you go to bed. Plan what you need to do for the next day. Help yourself out. Help your future self out by spending a little bit more time today, planning for tomorrow. So when your feet hit the floor, you already have what you need to do, what you need to accomplish. Let's talk a little bit more about that no list I told you about. How do we create a no list? Because I think this is really where a lot of value can come for us in this particular episode. And at this level, you would think the older you get, the more experience you are in a certain field, or the more experience you are in a certain position, et cetera, that things may get easier. Actually, I find it the opposite. I find that the older we get and the more skills that we add to ourselves, the more things we are able to do and we know how to do, and we do well, people see that. People figure it out. So guess what? More people begin to ask you to be involved. More people begin to ask you to do more things. So as your skill sets are expanding and as your ability to be proficient is increasing and you're becoming subject matter expert in certain areas and you're able to really be productive, and you can do this from a standpoint of showing results. Is where I'm going to. There's some people that set forth a task and there's no real tangible results. But I find the older I get and the more proficient I get in certain areas, particularly networking and dealing with people, that I can really get the types of results that I want to get. And guess what? People see that. So what happens? As a result of that, people begin to beseech you for certain things. Perhaps it's your kid's school asking you to be the president of their booster club. Perhaps it is your local volunteer board that's asking you to be a part of a particular community initiative. Perhaps it's additional work at your office. Perhaps it is a social committee that you're a part of that sees you as a leader now, that sees your input as critical. So they're asking you to be a part, not just the local activities, but on the national and regional levels as well. So you're being asked to be a part of so many more activities. Why? Because you're good and you've got these skill sets and people see them and therefore they want them as part of their programs. But this is why it's important to create a no list, because we got to learn to say no to some of these things. Why? You can't do everything. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's only one of you, and you will get tired, you'll get frustrated, and most importantly, you'll get overwhelmed. I'm telling you from experience. If you continue to say yes to everything and to everyone, people will not stop you from helping them. Again, people will allow you to do as much as you would do for them, and they will never stop you. You must take it. You must take charge of your own schedule and your own time and your own sanctity. And so you must learn to say no. So how do we create a no list? First things, we've got to identify just in our daily practice, in our daily work schedules, what are some things that are just not important? What are some things that are distractions to us? What are some things that we know off the top that are distractions? What are some things that frequently interrupt our workday? Do you work from home? Are your kids home? Is it summertime? Are your kids home? Well, then chances are they can interrupt you. Are your dogs running through your office while you're trying to have meetings? Are you trying to work? Okay, that's an interruption. Does repair work at your home or multiple meetings at your office interrupt your flow of getting things done? What are some things that frequently interrupt the flow for you during every day? What tasks or requests often make you feel overwhelmed or frustrated? These are things that should be on your no list. What do I say yes to out of obligation or guilt? I've been there. What do I say yes to all the time out of obligation or guilt, even though it doesn't serve my good? It doesn't serve the goals I'm trying to meet. Maybe I'll tell you what it was for me personally. I've had a issue for a while, and I'm getting better, but I'm not at the point of saying, okay, I completely do this every time. I've often done things for people that I care about simply because they've asked, and I do care about what they think of me. And so I say yes, even though I may not have the time, I may not have the energy, I may not have the desire to even do it, but I'm doing it for them because I care about them. So maybe your family's asking you to be the chairperson for their reunion. Maybe your social committee is asking you to be the president this year, for this particular committee. And it's going to take up an enormous amount of time, but you do it because you feel, humbled that someone's asked you to do it, or you do it because you feel like I care for these people and I don't want to tell them no. You've got to say no. What are some things you're saying yes to just out of obligation and just out of guilt? Here's some examples. Things that can interrupt you are excessive social media, emails, notifications on your phone, all of which can be turned off or put to do not disturb. Some other things. Are you finding yourself having unnecessary meetings? Is it just me, or do people meet just to say that they're in a meeting? What about interruption from coworkers, people that just want to talk about the game, or they want to go down to see what's on the lunch menu today if you're in an office, or if they just want to, kind of shoot the breeze because they're not productive today, so they figure they call you and make your day unproductive. These are things you got to say no to. The second thing is set boundaries based on your priorities. You know what you're trying to achieve. You must protect those boundaries of those particular items. You must protect those boundaries. So, what are your top 3 to 5 priorities right now? Wherever you are in your entrepreneurship, in your business, in your corporate life, you've got to know what are your top 3 to 5 priorities. Those should be on a list somewhere. And you should be protecting them and working as hard as you can to get those accomplished. But you should also be setting boundaries around those to ensure that nothing impedes upon them. Once you've identified the distractions, you can create the boundaries. The boundaries will form the backbone of your no list. Based on my top 3 to 5, here are things I've got to get accomplished. Anything that comes against these 3 to 5 items, there's an absolute no. I must say no to it. I must say no to it. The third thing, write down your no list. Now that you've got your 3 to 5 priorities, it should be very easy for you to write this list. You've identified what you can eliminate, write it down. Having a physical or digital list helps you to remind yourself of the commitment that you've made to your priorities. You've not only written down your priorities, but you also have written down things that you will not do that will jeopardize these priorities. So the no list will be, I will not check social media before a certain time or after a certain time. I will not accept new meetings during these dedicated focus hours in order for me to get these items completed. I'll not reply to non-urgent emails based on these particular priorities. I'll not take on additional projects until I get my current priorities done. That's one of the things I think a lot of people do. Just because your boss or your team, needs you to be able to come in and save them. Hey, I know you're doing this, but can you do this? Because we need to get that done as well. Listen, let me finish what I'm doing and then we can move to that piece of it. I'll not work late into the night unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't kill yourself trying to get these things done. The last thing is to communicate these boundaries, because it's important that your coworkers, your family, the people around you understand that there are clear boundaries. Here are my priorities. Here are things that I'm trying to get done. I'm going to be in my studio from 4 to 5 recording. I don't expect to be bothered. Do you need anything now while I'm available? 4 to 5, I'm recording. So during that time, don't call me. Don't come into my studio. I will be working on this priority, as an example. You know what your priorities are. Set the boundaries. Make sure you communicate it to the folks that need to know so that they understand that you're serious about protecting your boundaries. Number 5, just review regularly and make adjustments as needed. Your priorities and distractions may change over time. Once you get these 3 to 5 done, there are going to be more that need to be done, and they will need to be approached perhaps differently. So review and revise accordingly, but the same overall modus operandi should apply. You should be very protective of your time, your mental energy, and you should take the same approach of creating the no list. And people should know that you're very protective of your time and of your mental, of your energy. Okay? There are some great benefits of having a no list. And if you don't learn anything from this podcast, from this video, create the no list, because it's going to give you clarity and focus. A no list helps you to remove distractions and to stay focused on the things that really matter to you. A no list helps to conserve your energy. By saying no to things that can drain you, you can conserve your energy for the things that really do matter. By creating a no list, you can increase, which is the whole reason we're doing this podcast today, you can increase your productivity. Fewer distractions mean more time spent on meaningful work. Meaningful work means that you're moving toward your goal and you're increasing your productivity. Creating a no list. No list also reduces stress. Setting clear boundaries can help you to reduce the overwhelm and the stress involved in everyday living, everyday working, and it comes with overcommitting. The no list is going to help you stay away from overcommitting and from multitasking, which I am adamantly against. We do one thing at a time, we do it well, we move on to the next thing. No multitasking. So create the no list. It's a simple, effective way to take control of your time and to take control of your energy, and for you to ensure and be able to track your actual productivity. Here's the thing, guys. We talked about a lot in this podcast. I want you to go back through and listen to the podcast one more time, and I want you to get a pen and pad and start to create your 3 to 5 in terms of your priorities and begin to design your no list. A no list is going to be very important, very pivotal for you to change your modus operandi, the way that you think. Now rethink productivity. And one of the most important things I believe that you can do is create for yourself a no list. Okay, go back to through the podcast and listen to it again. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. It's always my pleasure to be here with you guys, and I'm really appreciative of all the support that you continue to show. Please make sure you subscribe if you've not done so already, and please make sure you share our content, family members, loved ones, friends, and associates. It's been my pleasure to be with you today. Come back and hang out with us tomorrow. We'll have another great podcast for you then. Thanks.